You know that feeling? You walk into a store for just one thing, but 30 minutes later, you're wandering the aisles feeling like you've just run a marathon? You're sluggish, your head feels a bit fuzzy, and honestly, you just want to go home and lie down. You've probably looked at yourself in that moment and thought, why is this so draining? Everyone else seems fine, so why am I completely wiped out? But here's the interesting part. Most of us have been taught that being exhausted after a simple errand is a sign that we're just out of shape or that we need more caffeine. We think it's a physical failure. What if I told you that this fatigue has nothing to do with your stamina and everything to do with how your brain processes the world around you?
Maybe you're not just tired. Maybe your nervous system is a high-functioning radar that is simply processing too much data at once. The problem isn't that you're weak. The problem is that you haven't realized yet that your brain is working overtime to navigate an environment that is designed to overwhelm it. Think about your mind like a house. Most of the time, we treat our minds like a public space. When you enter a busy shopping center, you're essentially opening your front door to a storm of sensory information. Bright lights, constant noise, endless choices, and the unpredictable energy of everyone else in the store. We feel exhausted because we've allowed that sensory overload to invade our internal space. Psychologists call this phenomenon cognitive overload. It's that point where your brain's processing power is maxed out by trying to analyze every single item, price, and person in your vicinity. It happens so fast that it feels like a sudden wave of fatigue just happened to you, like a sudden storm. But behavioral psychology shows us that there is a limit to how much information we can handle before our systems begin to shut down. That limit is your home. That space is where your energy lives. Most people don't realize that they don't have to jump into the storm of sensory data. When you're shopping, your brain treats every interaction like an incoming demand. Your heart rate might spike slightly, your thoughts race to compare prices, and suddenly you're in the middle of a mental conflict you didn't even choose. But imagine if you could watch that shopping trip from the window of your house instead of being out in the rain. When a store is packed and chaotic, it's projecting its own stress, its own noise, and its own demands onto the canvas of your day. If you accept that sensory projection, you're essentially agreeing to live in that cluttered environment for a while. But here's where it gets surprising. You can choose to decline the invitation to be overwhelmed. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly hard to practice. The next time you feel that familiar heaviness of fatigue rising in your chest while you're standing in an aisle, try this. Pause, just for one breath. Visualize the shopping environment as something you are observing, not something you are participating in. You are the observer of the store, not the victim of the store. Do you really want to take that sensory weight on?
Maybe you've spent your whole life being the person who takes on everyone else's environmental energy. You feel like if you just absorb the busyness of the world, you're just being normal. But all you're doing is setting your own internal battery on fire to keep the errand running. There's something most people don't realize about boundaries. They aren't meant to shut the world out. They're meant to keep you in. They're like a filter. You can walk through a store, you can find what you need, and you can stay aware of your surroundings without letting the noise become your own exhaustion. You can be a window, not a sponge. A sponge absorbs everything: the flickering lights, the loud music, the stress of the crowd. A window lets the light in, but it keeps the harsh wind and the dust on the outside. When you become a window, you can see what's happening in the store clearly, but you don't take the sensory chaos into your living room. Now, here's the twist. Sometimes the things that exhaust us most about shopping are actually just mirrors of our own need for order. If the sheer number of options in a store really gets under your skin, ask yourself, is there a part of me that is afraid of making the wrong choice? It's uncomfortable to look at, but it's incredibly powerful. When you realize that your fatigue is just pointing you toward your need for focus, you stop looking at the store as the enemy.
You start looking at it as a space that requires you to set a clear boundary. And suddenly, the shopping trip loses its power to drain you because you aren't fighting the environment anymore. You're just navigating it with a new set of rules.
You have a compass. A compass doesn't change its direction just because a storm hits it. It stays pointed at north because it's guided by something inside itself, not by the weather outside. You have a north, your values, your energy levels, and your peace. When a store tries to drain you, it's just weather. It's temporary. Don't let the weather change your direction. If you've ever felt like your energy was at the mercy of the environments you visit, I want you to know that there is a version of you that is calm, centered, and completely unshakable, even in the middle of a crowded store. It's not about being cold or not caring. It's about realizing that you have a sanctuary inside you that is yours to protect. Maybe you're not difficult for needing to leave a store early. Maybe you're not too sensitive for needing space away from crowds. Maybe you've just been holding the front door of your mind open for far too long, and it's finally time to reclaim your home. If this feels like you, if you've ever felt like you're constantly carrying the exhaustion of the world with you, leave a comment and tell me, what's one environment that usually drains your battery? And are you ready to try being a window there instead? We're all in this together, learning how to walk through the world without letting the world drain our inner peace. If you found something in this video that helped you see your own energy in a new light, consider subscribing. There is so much more to uncover about how we can navigate our inner lives with a little more grace and a lot more energy. Take a deep breath. Notice the space between you and the noise outside. That space is yours. Stay there as long as you need. And remember, the next time you feel the store trying to hand you its chaos, you don't have to reach out and take it. You can just watch it pass and keep walking in the direction that's true for you.